I'm pleased to be joined by Quincy Avery of QB Takeover, where he joins me once a week to talk through some of the big quarterbacks and that we want to see what they do well, what they don't do well. And we got a couple that I'm very intrigued to talk about in the biggest game, I think, so far this year. Number 2, Georgia at number 4, Alabama means Carson Beck, Jalen Milroe. Who's good? Why are they good? And we got a rivalry game with Arkansas, Texas A&M. One of the things I love, Quincy, Arkansas hate Texas A&M. They can't stand them.
I didn't know that was a rivalry.
I mean,
Is it because the colors are similar? What's going on there?
it's it's more like, so they hate Texas too, but Arkansas, me being from Oklahoma, I feel like I could say this. We don't like the way y'all be talking about us on the coast. Y'all want to give us hillbilly accents and, making fun of us, and don't nobody want to go to Arkansas, live in Arkansas, whatnot. So there's that. And then A&M believes that they can buy almost anything, or at least that's been the personification of what they do. And yet they ain't won nothing. That's a program that ain't won a national championship since 1939 and hasn't won a conference championship since 1998. And in college football, I tell people this often, dog. Everybody understands the NFL is a business, and I'm a Cowboys fan. We down bad, and it hurts. But no, nothing hurt like having to go into work tomorrow to hear this Texas A&M dude's mouth. You want to be able to shut him right the hell up. So you end up hating them more than you like yourself because you just don't want to hear from him. So with that out there, let's talk about Taylen Green, and let's talk about what you see from a dude that was at Boise State for 3 years and shows up to Arkansas 6'6", with an enormous arm. Stats are 806 passing yards, 245 yards, but that don't mean much to you. What do you see?
I see a quarterback who is absolutely dynamic with his legs right now. Like, he has the ability to do things that I don't think anybody else can do, like from a physical gift standpoint. And I think that you always want to say, like, all right, what is somebody's ceiling? Like, what can they provide to the game that other guys can't? And there's a whole lot that he has to offer in terms of that. Let me show you a couple clips so you can have
Please.
like a better idea. Let's see it together, and then you can be like, okay, this makes sense. Let's get to the play. We got 3rd and 19, right? 3rd and 19 for 95% of programs in America is like, hey, let's call a draw. Let's call a screen. Like, let's get off the field and let's not hurt ourselves, right? Because that's just what you need to do. But they're in a tie ball game. I think Coach Pittman trusts this young man a lot. He knows how gifted he is. Now, this is just a broken play, and there's not many people who can avoid pressure like this, right? But to think about what he's doing now, he's sprinting full speed to his left. He's going to flip his hips, and in one motion, this ball travels in the air 67 yards, right? Like, let's look at it from the back angle. He's running full speed to his left, avoids pressure, lifts his hips, and lets this ball go on a rope 67 yards in there. You could watch college football all day, every single day for the next 5 years, and you're not going to see a throw like that, right? So the physical talent from this young man is obvious and present. And now let's go to this 3rd and 13. He was absolutely dominating Auburn on 3rd down, like dominating them. They'd bring pressure, like right here. They're bringing this young man right here. He's unblocked. We don't have enough protection. We don't have enough people there to block him. But don't worry about it, right? Don't worry about it because he's gonna make you right. Right? You play man everywhere else. I got it. I got us, guys. Like, this is a quarterback who's like, yeah, I got it. There's nothing that you can do that's gonna face him right now. Now we're in 3rd and 13. 3rd and 13. Another opportunity for Auburn to get off the sticks. They had them in 3rd and 19, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 13. They're going to bring pressure again. They're going to bring a zone pressure, right? They're going to bring this man off the edge, boom, and we're going to drop this backer here. And they feel like, hey, we're good. We're in cover 2, Tampa 2. We got everything taken care of. But you don't. Like, he extends a play. Now, this one young man, he's in purgatory. What do I do? Do I come up and do I try and tackle him? Do I stay back and try and get in my zone? No matter what he would have decided to do, this play was going to end in a 1st down, right? those are things you cannot teach. Those are things that college coaches can look for every single day. They can try and find a college quarterback who can do that. And there's very few who can. Like he's playing on another level. Like, and I don't think he's getting enough credit. He hasn't developed necessarily to play on time or in structure over and over again, but he will, right? He has a really good coaching staff. He's very, very talented, which I think that we can see on tape versus one of the more talented teams in the country. And he's the best player in the field, right? He made 3 plays that changed the game for those guys that allowed him to win the game.
What's really cool about that is that you are able to see him basically being able to take care of himself, going, hey, look, he's coming unblocked. Maybe he knew that was happening and he had a fix for it, but I see that. I'm getting rid of the football. I'm getting out of that play. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I see you got 2 dudes coming after you and you slid protection the other way, all right. But that's one thing. The other is watching this game live, Taylen looked bad. Like, he didn't look like the plays that you found of him making those sorts of athletic plays remind me a lot of the things that Lamar Jackson can do well. And the reason I said that is Bobby Petrino is the offensive coordinator at Arkansas. I'm curious how much of this is Taylen needing to just try to figure it out on the fly, because I've come to understand Bobby Petrino does not run a simple offense. He's never run a simple offense. But Taylen has not been always sure about what he should be doing. So much so that he was throwing incompletions throughout this game, and they went to running the football. It turns out they could just run on people because that's actually the strength of the offense. When he gets to where he could stretch it, they're going to be something like lethal. He seems to still be kind of figuring out what he can and can't do over there.
No, what you said, I think is obvious. Like when you watch the tape, he and that's what I'm saying. Like he's figuring out how to play on rhythm. He's figuring out how to play on structure because Bobby Petrino runs a very pro style offense. Like it requires you to have an understanding of what the defense is doing, having an understanding of your playing on offense, being able to work through those progressions there in order to be successful. So he's going to continue to challenge. He should continue to challenge Taylen to be a better quarterback to play in structure because when you have a talent like that's a Sunday player, right? He has the ability to play on Sundays, and you need to challenge him to do those things because he can also make this Arkansas football team really, really good, really special, and compete in the SEC. And I don't think a lot of teams can say that.
Man, they would love to hear that at Arkansas because their schedule is always brutal because they used to play in the SEC West. Now they just play an SEC West schedule, or so it seems. Like they played an Auburn team that is not terribly great, though they are terribly talented, which is one of the reasons why Hugh Freeze is up against it. You got to do something with what you have. And they got a quarterback problem themselves. They can't seem to figure out whether or not it's Hank Brown or Peyton Thorne. Either way, they be throwing the football to the other team. And that is the one thing you cannot do if you're playing quarterback. An offensive line can't make you throw an interception. Bad wide receivers can't make you throw an interception. Only you have the power to throw an interception.
We agree. We're aligned there. And I bet he wish he would have thrown that NIL money at Taylen Green instead of either one of those young men. All right.
Hey, look, it's curious because he comes out of Boise State and Malachi Nelson transfers to Boise State. We're thinking, okay, that dude gonna win the job. And Maddox Madsen's like, nah, I'm right here, dog. We good. And then I come to find out Maddox was the guy that was coming in when Taylen wasn't getting it right at Boise State. So, like maybe they know what they're doing up there. Maybe Spencer Danielson notes. And then Dirk Cutter is also the offensive coordinator at Boise State, which is a wild pool, but you got it. And right now it's the Ashton Genty and the Pips out there, and that's fine. That's the way I would do it. But, I mean, where the NIL money is going and who it is going to is going to be just such a big talking point because quarterback is such an important position. And when you get it right, you get it right. But it sometimes takes, as Nick Saban would say, time for the cake to bake. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about Jalen Milroe and what he offers, and frankly, why he was able to beat Georgia last year in the SEC championship game, but also how he has grown since the guy that got benched after the loss to Texas to the guy that became, I thought, what Jaden Daniels was last year. He was becoming that guy where he could make it happen any way you wanted it. And Kirby Smart had a great quote. It was, you can be right, dropping everybody. You can also be wrong, dropping everybody, because you never know what Jalen is going to do. Just a walking, talking, explosive play is what he looks like. But we talked about this a little bit, and I think you've actually been way ahead on this. Guys that are, shall we say, strong in the upper body and play quarterback, for whatever reason, they got a hard time making a layered throw, which I think of as an intermediate throw. But if you want it to go 70 yards, Jalen will do that with his legs or with his arms. So what do you see when you look at Jalen Milroe that might make him elite?
I see a really good college quarterback who's playing with a ton of confidence, right? Jalen Milroe drops back every time, and he has complete conviction in where he's going with the football. He's also paired up with a really good offensive coordinator, Nick Sheridan. Like, Nick Sheridan is doing a great job in terms of scheming guys open and giving Jalen the confidence that, like, when he gets to the line of scrimmage, he has a really good idea where he's throwing. And, like, so I went through the tape, like, I'm looking through the tape. What I see over and over again is like Jalen making throws to the first read in the concept, which is a really good trait. Like, to be able to do that and be that accurate when you do it, like, I got to tip my cap to that. But it's two things. It's one, great job by the play caller, great job by him. But now I want to know, how's he going to respond when that guy's not open, right? What are we going to do when number one isn't open? Is he going to be able to work through progressions and still find a completion? Or is he going to just take off and use his legs? Like, his legs are great, right? He can make a ton of plays there. But I think that you stress a defense out to the highest level when you can do all three things, right? One, be able to attack when your first read is open, throw a strike, push it down the field. Two, work to your check downs and get to completions like in the intermediate depth, right? The layered digs, the basics, the stuff you're coming back to. And then three, if none of that's open, use your legs. I want somebody to be able to do all three, but I look at the tape, right? And it's just littered with like first read throws. And they're really good throws, but their guys are getting open and he's putting the ball where it needs to be.
Can you give me an example of what you see?
Let's check it out. All right. So let's get into this play here. We get a they go unbalanced, right? So they got 4-by-1, three receivers here. We got a tight end here in the back of the pistol. And this tackle happens to be eligible on the other side. So we got 4-by-1. We're gonna explode, right? And what they're figuring out here is, hey, we're getting some form of zone coverage, right? We got zone, we motioned, we exploded. No one ran with the tight end, so we're pretty clear on what we got. Now we're gonna motion over. So we motion over, we see that we get this down safety, and now we're able to throw a strike on the other side, right? Because we get to work away from rotation, puts his foot in the ground, and throws a strike, right? First seam. Like, he knew where he should go with his eyes. He got to work away from that safety. He puts it on the wide receiver who's running that seam. And if we look at it from the front angle, actually what we're going to get in college. So we look at it from this angle, and you just get to see him like process information. All right, I get to check my eyes to the safety, foot in the ground, ball. Like, that's really good quarterback play. It's really good quarterback play, really good ball. But are we like working through the progression? Are our eyes going somewhere? No, we're not seeing any of those things that I think are going to be important as the season goes on, and especially as we play somebody like the University of Georgia. Now, this situation is different. We go empty set. We get matched up here. We got a corner here. We got a linebacker here. So we got a tight end on the outside, wide receiver here. So we know, like, he came out, I get double press. I know that I'm getting man-to-man coverage with the middle of the field safety. So safety's in the middle of the field. I know that there's only so much width in which he can cover. So he's alert. I know what to do. Foot in the ground. He drops an absolute gem of a football. Receiver didn't break stride. Receiver didn't have to turn his hands over. That's essentially a handoff. So it's another great throw by Milroe. And those are the things that I think that he does like really, really well. He knows where he's going. He plays with conviction and he throws really accurate footballs. Those are great traits for a quarterback. But when he comes to situations where he has to work the progressions, what is he going to do? Um, I'm hopeful that he's done the work this offseason where he's going to be able to do those things. But that's my only concern with him. He's a tremendous talent. He's throwing the ball really, really well. He looks really confident. He just hasn't been challenged in a way where he has to do the things that I'm looking for me to like take a quarterback to the next level of evolution.
I'm already thinking about how I might defend somebody like him, right? That's what I'm seeing there is if you give him a clean picture, he is going to make the right read. So how do you make sure the picture that he sees post snap is not the one that he saw pre snap? And then this is the Jalen Milroe part. Just because I know I beat this play doesn't mean I know I beat Jalen Milroe. And that's what you're talking about, right? You're talking about a guy that he'll just tuck it and go. I think what you also are stressing is at the NFL level, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to get
Just
to 2 or 3 or 4. How
it
do you
just
teach a guy
doesn't
to get
happen that
from
way.
2 to 3 to 4?
So we're gonna have to put first. He has to be in some situations where he actually has to work through it, and he's not getting enough of those. But then it's just like, am I confident in my ability to do that? Like, let me just see somewhere. I have to get my eyes there, and I think it's probably one of the most difficult things to like teach somebody to do, because there's limited situations. Now in practice, he can come up over and over again, but practice is not necessarily like the game. I feel like you can understand the situations a little bit better in practice, be confident in what's going on, and be willing to make mistakes. Now it's a lot more difficult when you're as athletic as Jalen, and you actually don't have to make those mistakes. Let me just run rather than put myself in a bad situation.
I want to throw this at you before we move to Carson Beck because I think we're on a pretty good. You're teaching me right now. So you can learn this stuff just by being thrown in these situations. You might see them in practice, but practice is practice, and some guys just don't practice well. Some guys play well. I'm also curious about the helmet technology now, where we got the coaching be able to talk, I think, until 15 seconds left in the play clock in college. If you're Nick Sheridan, how much of this is you should see X open here, or we have this in here so that you can throw the ball to XYZ? Because I saw this really talked about when the Patriots played the Rams in Super Bowl, and Patriots come back and win that game. And it was a lot of, we're going to wait until that headset technology goes off, and then we're going to make Jared Goff do this himself. And he couldn't do it. Is that am I speaking out of school there when we're talking about Jalen Milroe?
So, like you're saying, I don't know exactly, what they're teaching them or what's going on there. A lot of the times, the way that I see it in the NFL, right, or guys that I've worked with in the NFL would be, hey, we're gonna run train right, uh, Z sail, X shallow, whatever. Right. And they're gonna be like, hey, let's make sure that we're alert. Hey, we get quarters here. Be willing to take a shot. Right? Things like that, like little messaging that can allow you to go to the line of scrimmage and be aggressive and have a thought process when you get there. Not so much like, hey, this guy's gonna be open, because guys have gotten into trouble when it's like, hey, this guy's gonna be open. And I can tell you, like Josh Dobbs, remember when he went in that game for the Minnesota Vikings, hadn't really gone to practice. That was a situation where Kevin O'Connell would literally just walk him through the play. Hey, this is a lot like this play that you may have ran before, right? Just telling them things like that. So usually you're not going to get somebody who's like really going to coach you through the play, but they're going to give you like, hey, be alert for this. Hey, it looks like we're getting this here. But when you tell guys like, hey, this should be open, that really messes with you, because you'll find guys like holding on to it unless you can be absolutely sure. If you're absolutely sure, go ahead. But if you can't be absolutely sure, it puts quarterbacks in a difficult spot.
I love that. I love that for a lot of reasons. The first one is I get to see this kind of played out in the UFL, where they always got the headset on where you can hear people talking. And sometimes it is just that. Or sometimes you get Steve Spurrier on the sideline, which is, and this time tell him to catch it. Like it's one of those. Like, so you can get some gems there. But I love this Kevin O'Connell, Josh Dobbs example, because I was late to this. And I was late to this because I'm like, what are y'all talking about? This is one of the best pieces of quarterbacking and coaching you've ever seen. And then I was made to understand he don't know nothing. They just throwing him out there. And Kevin O'Connell is asking him to pick this up in real time. And I'm going, I don't have it like that, dog. I'll be like, 4 verts? Yeah, but maybe not here. That's what I'm going to be. I'm just going to be locked up, and you're going to end up holding that ball like you talked about, as opposed to just seeing what you see and then letting the ball go. Uh, I want to talk a little bit about Georgia and that offense and what Mike Bobo has put in place with Carson Beck, because it's a different player than the first two that we have seen, right? Taylen Green, Jalen Milroe. One of the reasons they are attractive to offensive play callers is I might be wrong. I might get this dead wrong, but they're going to make me look really good because they can run away from people. Carson Beck doesn't really have that. So it feels like what he has to do is what we might call quarterbacking. However, Quincy, when people talk about this dude, they talk about him like he should be in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy, like he should be one of the first quarterbacks off the board. And I'm telling you, dog, I can't get there. I know he plays at Georgia, but that's not the reason why Stetson Bennett played at Georgia. I didn't ever think he was the best player, but he seems like a better player than Carson Beck. Is there something I'm missing with this dude?
I don't I don't think you're missing anything. I think that we're probably on the same page. I think he's a good quarterback. He's like a good college quarterback, but good college quarterback to me does not say first pick in the NFL draft. Like I got 4 examples of 4 different plays for Carson. We have like really bad, like what are you kind of doing here? We have, hey, you're a first round quarterback, you should make that throw. Then we have a good throw, and then we have an elite throw. So I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly with Carson. Share this. All right, so let's start here. We're going to get 3x1, and we're just going to be running stick with number 3, inside fade, and a hitch here, right? So this defense is a little tricky. I could see how it gives people some problems, but really what they're just going to be doing, what they're just going to be doing is running a variation of Tampa 2. This, just treat him like a middle linebacker who dropped back, but they don't have to worry about here, so they'll just box him over here. Now, Carson Beck, like this is a difficult situation. And there's 2 options here. I feel like for a quarterback, we could either A, just take the boundary, right? We're getting too high, right? We could just take this dragon, this slant flat situation here, take a completion and move forward. But his eyes are the front side because it is like a unique coverage. He feels like he's in a good situation. But I'll tell you what puts him in a bad spot. His footwork. This is not quick game footwork. If you don't have perfect footwork here and you can't throw the ball right now, this ball has to be out. This extra step, like that should be an interception. That could easily be an interception here, all because he takes bad footwork and he went to the wrong side, 1, and then 2, he just doesn't have the right footwork that pairs with the concept. Like those situations, like we can't have that. Like you're supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. We don't need that. All right, now, next play. This is Carson Beck. He's adding a little bit to the game. He's able to escape the pocket. So we're going to get motion. We're going to go play fake. And we're going to get a little short roll right here. Now, what they're trying to do is occupy here. We get this deep over here. This is by high school standards wide open, by college standards wide open, by NFL standards. Like, this is free. You did have to make this guy miss. You made him miss, but that work has been done. He is open. You could punt the ball to this man. You could throw it underhand. You could punt it. You could throw it sidearm. You could do whatever you want. This is the requirement here. Is this has to be a catch. Like there's no other option than this being a catch. And little stuff like this, like as a play caller, you've done everything right. I put you in a premier situation. All I'm asking you to do is give him a football he can catch. Should it be a touchdown? Yes. It's not a touchdown, but it should dang sure should be a 30-yard completion. And we're not able to get that there. So those are 2 really like, come on, Carson. We need a little bit better. But now I'm going to show you this is better football. Now we're just going to be running four verts. I'm not going to call this great football because The defense is going to, well, we got, I shouldn't say this. Right here, what we're going to have is like a version of Haas. Seams on the inside, hitches on the outside, except we're going to run like 9 yard lock hitch, seam, seam. So we got a concept here. Pretty simple. They starting too high. I'm not sure exactly what he sees, but he sees something that gets him to check the play. He must have saw the pressure based on the front. But buddy, like this is hit our head on the goalpost territory, right? We got listen. These plays have to end in touchdowns. And yes, you are getting hit. So that's why I'm like, okay, we'll take whatever we can get. Solid play, right? That's good quarterbacking. I'm not going to call this elite quarterbacking by any standards. I don't know their rules. I would imagine that they got big on big here, and he's supposed to get the blitzer, right? Which the back does. I think the tackle gets confused, but we need these plays to be bigger. So we've had two not great plays. One is a solid play that I think could be better. And then I'm going to show you the highest level quarterbacking. Like this is you playing quarterback at a very high level. This is for one, we are going to start our eyes to the right side of the field. Like his first intended receiver on this play is going to be the right side of the field. He wants his completion over here, and it's not available, right? They ran another wheel, another post, grab the safety, corner state. Like this timing, this anticipation. Let's look at it from this angle so you can really see what Carson Beck is doing. So we know he wants to get to the ball to the right side of the field. That's gone. Like this, the ability, if you see his eyes right here, his eyes are to the right. You will see him snap his eyes over. Not only does he snap his eyes over to the left, but he gets his feet in the perfect position to be able to make this. That there's a limited number of guys who can do this. Stroke mechanics really clean, ball placement really clean. Things like that gets you drafted first 15 picks in the NFL. I need more of that, right? I need Carson Beck to be that guy every single time. It's going to be a real battle on Saturday. Like, who is going to be the best versions of themselves? I don't want to see this Carson Beck from Kentucky game. I want to see the Carson Beck that I've heard so much about. That's who I want to see out there on Saturday. And I want to see what happens when Jalen Milroe's challenged, right, to be the best version of himself throughout the game.
I think we're gonna see both of those honestly, because I think Kane Womack's defense is not getting enough credit for really being outstanding, given what we had come to expect from an Alabama defense in the Nick Saban era. And on the other side, I love what you were showing about Carson Beck and the things that, frankly, make it difficult to play quarterback at a high level. And also, we got to see what Kentucky does really well and what we can expect Alabama to try to do. If you know where you think he wants to go and you can take that away and you know you're going to give yourself a chance to make a play, you're going to probably do that more often than not. I'm curious about taking that check down earlier where he had the running back into the flat, but he chose to try to force the ball where it shouldn't go. When we see these sorts of plays, one of the things that quarterbacks would tell me is that's the right read. You do that. And I'm like, but then you get to be known as a check down guy. You get to be known as a person that don't take a deep shot. And he says, well, do I want to be a check down guy or want to be a guy that throws interceptions? Right? Do you want to be a guy that's throwing handoffs? Yes, you always want to be a guy that's throwing handoffs. So I wonder if you could unpack the attitude behind some of these plays, because I'm looking at this and you just told me that's easy money. That's found money. The rest of us that are fans are looking at this going, why didn't he try to force it over the middle there where that window was wide? That's what a 5-star does. That's what a QB1 does. You throw it into that tight window like the last play that we saw.
Yeah, so we just saw. So as a quarterback, your job is to be as aggressive as possible while while mitigating the risk, right? We cannot be out there throwing a bunch of interceptions. Like if there's a throw to be made, let's go be aggressive and let's go get it. But at the same time, we got to read things the right way. Now I don't know what their rules are. If they're going slant flat versus two eye, or they're getting to the stick side. I would work the slant flat. I'm gonna take the completion over there. He decided to work the stick. Let's have great feet. But think about Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels was 91% on, I think that was Monday night. The large majority of his passes were under 10 yards. He threw four passes over 20 yards. The deep ball to McLaren on the left, the deep ball to McLaren on the right, and there was an incomplete ball like a little further down the field, and there was another pass on the right. For the most part, everything else was under 10 yards, right? And people like, oh, we don't want to be checked. Oh, you go find completions. Like you go be addicted to completions. You take all of those you can. When there's a chance for you to be aggressive, throw it in a window, anticipate, do those things. Let's go do it. But we're not gonna put ourselves in unnecessary risk. Coaches, they want when a shot is there and available, you take the shot. Right. When we drew up something for you to go get a chunk of yardage and we feel like we got the coverage that we want, go get the chunk. But other than that, like we're just advancing pawns, like advancing pawns. When we see something we can go attack, like go take out a rook, go take out a, let's go do it. But other than that, we're just gonna advance, right? And just keep taking profits until the dam breaks. And like that is your job as a quarterback, and it's not just to be wildly aggressive and be a gunslinger.
I love the chess metaphor, not the least of which is because I play a lot of chess. And that's exactly what you're trying to do. Hey, if you're going to give it to me, I'm going to just take it from you. And then all of a sudden, people are panicking and you get to take larger pieces off the board. And people tip the king. I understand that intellectually. I think a lot of people understand that intellectually. And I'm thinking about Jaden Daniels and how he and Cliff Kingsbury had Lou and that defense going side to side, back and forth. It wasn't even that they were out of position. It was just when it was open, he hit it. And Jaden Daniels can still pick up first downs with his legs when things didn't seem to be there. And that is, I got to believe, just deflating for a defense because you know that you had him or you know you had this play. You beat this play. You just didn't beat him. That part can't be accounted for on a chessboard. That's what makes that guy that guy. And I really love that you used him as an example because I wasn't always sure about Jaden Daniels. And he is a great example of a guy who benefits from playing in an offense that recognizes his skill set and a guy that's going to play within structure. Because thinking about what they did at Arizona State, and I never saw that guy. The guy we've seen the last 2 years, never saw him. And
It's
then
all
all of a
running
sudden,
back.
right. You know what I'm saying? And now we get to see this at LSU and we got to see this at Washington. And I'm going, wait, Herm, you had this the whole time? The whole time? Why are we doing what we're doing? And I think some of this comes back to Carson Beck and Georgia and the way they want to play. We want to be a defensive football. We want to play ball control, right? We want to sit on the ball and we want to take the life out of every game we play. We're going to stifle you. We're going to sit on your chest. As you are evaluating quarterbacks and you are trying to help quarterbacks with fundamentals about their mechanics, but also, hey, here's the throw that you're probably going to be asked to make given what kind of an offense you play in. Do you find yourself looking at guys that perhaps don't have the skill set or do have the skill set for what they're doing? And then you're going, I don't think this is helping you. How do we make this help you? How do we find some ways for you to use what gifts you have?
Yeah, it's difficult, and I find myself doing that more when quarterbacks are like in the transfer portal, thinking about going to certain schools rather than other. When a kid is somewhere or a young man is somewhere, I just kind of back off because that's not my job, right? I can only help you be the best version of yourself. I can't try to get a coach to do something different with you. Like I hope they use you to the best of your ability, but coaches are like anybody else. They're going to go back to what's comfortable and what's familiar. Like I know that I know this really well, and that's what they're going to teach, and it's hard to get them to do something different. I've had guys who've transferred to like really big schools, and I told the school before the guy went there, and I told the guy before he went there, probably not a good idea. Like that's not where you should go. They're not going to do things that are going to accentuate your skill set. And it's just a difficult conversation. But like think about Jaden Daniels at LSU. His first year at LSU was not like the second year. Same with Joe Burrow. First year at LSU was not like the second year. Right. And you need time in some of these offenses to grow and develop. And I won't be as hard on Herm because I don't think the Jaden Daniels that Herm had was the same Jaden Daniels that we saw at LSU. He was more mature. He was developed. Like he had an understanding. And he had took those bumps and bruises. And after you take those, I think that it's a little easier to take coaching. Right. After you get scabbed up a little bit, like you're like, all right, well, the way I was doing it didn't work. Let me go find a way that does, and the coach can provide you with that.
I love hearing you talk about quarterbacks, and I love hearing you talk about talent acquisition and giving dudes opportunities to develop. But I come at this first. I became an analyst because I was a fan, and I've always been very loud about that. You don't get to be in this sport and want to cover it because, well, it's a job. No, no, there's something here that you're passionate about that you wanted to make your business. So your passion becomes your business. And I look at these things and I see myself. I see other conversations that are being had about, hey, that might not be the best place for you because you do this really well and they do this other thing really well. It's just not necessarily a great fit. And now with the money that's being spread around and the value that we're placing on veteran quarterbacks, I'm looking back at who has made really good and smart decisions based on fit and not just money. Because sometimes if they're gonna throw a bag at you, you're gonna have to eat the offense they ask you to play in. But a guy I want to use an example here is Dylan Gabriel, who went to a place in Central Florida where he played for a coach that basically had him in the same offense that he's been playing in since he from Central Florida to Oklahoma. And I don't think that Will Stein's offense is that dissimilar from something like a veer and shoot, something like what Tennessee might run with Josh Heupel. But that dude has been very smart about where he needs to be playing football. Same thing with Will Howard. He's always either been able to be the guy that can be athletic and take over the game like he did at Kansas State, or he goes to Ohio State where it's, I'm going to hand this ball to Quinshawn Judkins. He's going to take it 86 yards. I'm going to throw this bubble screen, and Mecca Book is going to take it 70 yards. You're talking about giving these guys opportunities to, as you said, get scabbed up, take those bumps and bruises, take that coaching. How much of your job when they come back to you is, are you ready to listen now? Are we listening?
I think that I try to do that in a gentle way,
Okay.
right? Like, hey, you did it your way last time. Like, let's have a bigger discussion and look at like what's really going on because recruiting's tough. Like, all these guys really, really want to go to the biggest school because that's what they've dreamed about their whole life. So who would I be to put a damper on that? But you have an opportunity, yes, to make some NIL money, but if you do it the right way, you get to make NIL money and you get to make NFL money, right? So like let's not like become short-sighted about money that's not life-changing. Like it puts you in a good position, but it's not life-changing. NFL money is life-changing. And let's put ourselves in a position to get that.
That is Quincy Avery of QB Takeover. If you're talking quarterbacks, you are talking Quincy. Quincy, once again, man, thank you for taking some time to talk with us, teach us a little bit more about this position you know so much about.
Appreciate you, bro. And congrats on the plaque behind you.
My man, he noticed. I appreciate it.